What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackbine, joined always by my man in the corner, producer Nick Belsky. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talkers. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers, well, moves are getting made. Price tags are being revealed, and it's Thursday. But we are still heavily under Justin Fields' watch. And we've got some developments. We're diving into all that, plus more on a wildly cold, but it's all right. We're getting real close to spring because free agency is here, which means we're back. Football is here. It's like it never even left. I'm feeling great. Hope you're feeling the same. How you doing, my friend?
It's the day that we've all been waiting for. And no, not Justin Fields or whoever the quarterback signing. It's our day that the favorite inside linebacker finally gets some news that tells us that he's going to be playing in a Pittsburgh Steelers uniform once again. So I know I'm excited about that. And I know there is at least 70% of this chat right now that is super excited about what we're about to talk about.
There are a couple of diehards that I'm telling you, there are some people who are bigger Cole Holcomb fans than Pittsburgh Steelers fans, and I respect the grind. The grind. Cole Holcomb is back. That is where we'll start, my friend. He is returning to the Pittsburgh Steelers after a year off dealing and rehabbing and going through the entire training process of returning from a significant knee injury. He restructures his contract today, saves the Pittsburgh Steelers what was originally believed to be $4 million. According to Jerry Dulac, it is now $5 million for the Pittsburgh Steelers, gives them roughly $64 million in available salary cap space heading into free agency on Wednesday, and answers a question that we have all been waiting for, and that is what's going to happen with Cole Holcomb. He was considered one of the possible cap casualties this offseason, but at the same time, you had the question constantly, okay, he's here, he's been here. Why would they wait so long to get rid of him if they were just waiting until this offseason and they were going to pay him last year? That didn't make a ton of sense. Well, they're keeping him. And there are questions that come with this, but I think positive updates are more important. Now, Cole Holcomb's been a guy that has been in the locker room literally every day throughout the season. He was training at UPMC Rooney Sports Complex all the time. He, at the same time, was on the sidelines during most of the team's games with the headset on, which means he was communicating. He was working with these coaches to try and keep his brain sharp and his football IQ high. This was a guy that, all year long acted like he was out 3 weeks when he was out 18 of them. And you just thought the entire time the Pittsburgh Steelers like this guy. According to, I believe it was Pelissero who first broke the news, the Steelers really like what this guy brings in leadership and his capabilities when he's fully healthy. He now will be. There are two big questions that come with this. The first one is, what is his role? The second one is, what does it mean for a guy like a Landon Roberts or maybe somebody like Peyton Wilson? We'll start with Cole Holcomb's role in 2025. I know everybody's talking depth. I know everybody's saying that's a great depth piece. I think that is most likely what's going to happen. But I would not shut the door on the Pittsburgh Steelers giving Cole Holcomb an opportunity to start in 2025. I'm not saying he's going to be the favorite, but I don't know who would be. I don't know, even if you do bring back E-Rob, if there's a clear cut, this guy should be next to Patrick Queen. I get everybody's going to say Peyton Wilson, but Peyton Wilson's a second year, third round pick. And yeah, he played a lot last season, but we also saw that he's still got some development in front of him. Do you rush him onto the field and make him the full-time starter? Whether we agree with that or not, it might not be what the Pittsburgh Steelers are looking to do. I wouldn't shut the door on Cole Holcomb being a candidate for some pretty big playing time in 2025. And worst case, he is the best fourth inside linebacker that a team has in the National Football League. What does it mean for Mark Robb? I don't think anything. I would keep all five of them. And what does it mean for E-Rob, which is the second part of this question? I don't know. I think that one's more up for debate than people want to realize. The Steelers have not gotten a deal done with Landon Roberts. He wants to come back. He is definitely a Pittsburgh Steelers linebacker, and the Pittsburgh Steelers love him. But they have 3 inside linebackers right now, all under contract, and you're going to go out and pay a 4th guy that essentially is a starter in a mix of what would be 4 guys worthy of consideration for a starting job. I'm not totally sold that that's where the train of thought is for Pittsburgh. It could be. It might make a ton of sense to have depth, especially when you've had injuries there. But how many teams in the National Football League have 4 inside linebackers that would start most years on their team? Not many. It's just not a position that you're looking for like that. Now, if E-Rob's cheap, sure. But if E-Rob is that entire $5 million, I think there are questions about whether or not the Steelers would bring him back or consider bringing him back. We'll start with the role. What's your thoughts on Cole Holcomb's placement within this defense now that he is back? And do you see E-Rob returning with the definite that Holcomb is as well?
Yeah, when I look at Holcomb, I think that this is a guy that the door is going to be left open, that he can grab that number 2 spot. In my eyes, Patrick Queen is the number 1, but let's not forget, before he went down with injury, Cole Holcomb was that guy. If Cole Holcomb never got injured, Patrick Queen would never have come to the city of Pittsburgh because Holcomb would have been that guy. Now, the question is, what does he look like after missing an entire year due to a devastating knee injury? That's one that I think the Steelers want answers to, and I think that's why you see Cole Holcomb restructuring to say, hey, I just want to be given the opportunity to prove that I can still be a starter in this league. I don't know if he can. He had the talent before the injury. I have no idea what he's going to look like after this injury and after a year off, but I think the door is going to be left open no matter if E-Rob comes back, which we'll get to, no matter if Peyton Wilson takes a step forward. They're going to go into camp. It's going to be Patrick Queen number 1, and it's going to be a battle for the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th spot. And that brings me to a Landon Roberts. I think you bring him back because of those question marks with Cole Holcomb and because of how much better a Landon Roberts is at stuffing the run and playing the run than the other 2 linebackers the Steelers currently have on the roster, than Patrick Queen, than Peyton Wilson. I think you need that presence. You need that guy that on a 4th and 1 is going to dive over the line and force a fumble and be inches away from getting you to beat the Dallas Cowboys on a major stop. You need a guy with that type of attitude on the defense, especially in the middle of the defense. A Landon Roberts brings that, and I think the Steelers would sorely miss that if they let it walk out the door. I agree with you. It has to come at the right price, but something tells me that a Landon Roberts is going to come at the right price, and he's going to be the finishing touch on this stacked inside linebacker core that is going to have to battle for every inch of playing time.
Yeah, I hope that's the case. I do. I hope E-Rob comes back. I think he makes too much sense for the Steelers. Like, why wouldn't you want a run stuffer in a year where you're trying to fix the run defense? Why would you not want that guy? Why would you not want a guy who's shown leadership, who could play the pass? Like, he's not a one-trick pony. He's obviously a one-trick pony compared to these other guys, but he's a dude that has been literally the only inside linebacker for the Steelers, which means he's had to play every single snap. I've seen this guy in the locker room barely be able to walk and go play 100% of the defensive snaps on a Sunday. I've seen it with my own 2 eyes. And when you ask him, hey, are you going to play this? He just shakes his head. He says, yeah, I'm going to play this Sunday. There's not even a question. And I'm like, all right, yeah, I believe you. I believe you 100%. That's who E-Rob is. I do think he fits the Steelers. I think attitude comes with this. You know what I mean? Like, I think the Steelers need guys like E-Rob to say, we need somebody that's going to show up and be scary. We need a scary inside linebacker. I get it. Patrick Queen's a villain. Deshaun Elliott's a villain. E-Rob's that quiet. He ain't going to say nothing. He's just going to look at you. And that's intimidating enough type of player. The Steelers need that guy. You know, that guy always works well in the middle of a defense. He works well in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's always tried to have that guy, whether it was, I mean, you could go back to Jack Lambert. You could go to as recent as Vince Williams, and I guess now a Landon Roberts. And that's what the Steelers need at the inside linebacker position. I hope E-Rob comes back. I'm pretty confident all 3 of them are going to compete for a starting job. What do you give the chances Cole actually pulls it off? To me, like everybody's talking depth immediately goes, that's a great depth piece. In my eyes, like you said, like he was the guy before he got injured. I don't know what this knee injury is going to do to him. That's a massive question mark. But if he could come back and be most of what he was, I don't understand why he wouldn't be the number 2. To me, that's a guy that he was the number 1 and he got injured. And if he comes back most of the number 1, that's number 2. And you have Peyton Wilson and E-Rob behind him who fit great roles as specialty players. And Holcomb and Patrick Queen are your all-around 3-down linebackers. I just feel like it makes, I really do. I think the door is wide open for Cole if he is back to where he was. Now, again, that's a massive question mark, but I think I'm a little bit higher on what Cole could be to this defense than I think a lot of people out there are assuming with this news breaking.
Yeah, and I think the big thing you have to look at is if they didn't believe that he could be that number 2, or at the very least be somebody that would immediately get into the top 3, why would they have held on to him? There was always the question of, well, why are they holding on to him if they're not going to let him try to come back? Why would they hold on to him if they thought he was just going to be a 4? Because this isn't a guy that has a storied history as a special teamer. This is a guy that has a storied history as an inside linebacker in the NFL. So if they're retaining him, they're retaining him for that. They're not retaining him to say, oh, let's see if we can turn him into a special teamer. No, you're retaining him for over a year through this entire long, drawn-out knee recovery because you believe that on the other end of that is still a very good player that can play starting minutes for you, that can get starting snaps, that can carry the load in the middle of your defense. That's why they're bringing him back. So as much as a lot of people want to bury him, simply because I think it goes to show that people like what E-Rob had to do last year. Yeah. They like what Peyton Wilson looked like. And it feels like, Holcomb kind of got pushed out when he was injured. If you can get that 4th, and now especially that you have that 4th at a cheaper price that allows you to go out and do other things, why wouldn't you? It's always better to have more talent than less. And when you can do it for cheaper, that's always a positive. So I like the move, and I think that it makes a lot of sense that the door is open, not just for him to play, but to play some serious minutes.
On the other side of some Steelers news today is the wide receiver position. Cole Holcomb was the one, started it off, kicked things off early in the morning. Felt good to have some Steelers news because I woke up, you go through the morning Twitter scroll, and you see about 65 stick poking emojis with the Steelers saying do something. And you're like, I kind of agree. I hear you. What's going to happen? We got to be next. Got to be real close to next. Well, Cole Holcomb happened. Just before Cole Holcomb, the Pittsburgh Steelers get the asking price for probably the biggest name outside of Justin Fields that they have been presented with all offseason, and that is DK Metcalf. Yesterday, we came on and talked about the exact price that he was expected to go for, that he is expected to go for with Seattle. Yesterday, Jostina Anderson tweets out, one team's willing to give up a 3rd. And I'm not going to lie to you. I sat there at dinner going, do I write the DK Metcalf is super cheap story? Because that just doesn't feel like, that feels like the Browns saying, we're not trading, we'll give them a 3rd round pick, and acting like they're big and tall and mighty. And every other team's gonna be like, all right, that's cool, man. We're gonna give them a 1st. Like, I don't know why you're acting all cool over there. Woke up this morning, 1st and a 3rd for DK Metcalf. I stand very true to what I said yesterday. I'd give it up in a heartbeat. Wouldn't even think about it. I think the compensation matches the skill. I think the compensation matches the need. I do not like a 3rd round running back would be great. I get it. A 2nd round running back would be better. A 3rd round defensive tackle would be great. I get it. A 1st round defensive tackle would be awesome. I get that one too. And to be honest, if you could pull it off and go a 1st and a 3rd next year, maybe a 1st, a 3rd, and some change next year, great. But I still think he's worth a 1st and a 3rd. I think you could utilize the fact that you have 2 7ths and a 5th to maybe move up into the 3rd and not have to worry about it. Maybe trade your 4th next year plus some this year to get into the back end of the 3rd. Like, it's the 21st pick in the 3rd round. You don't have to go very far into the 3rd round to get what you were looking for. I just feel like that's an option. The only part of this that I think the Steelers miss out on in this equation is a defensive tackle. It's the only one. I don't think that they fill the need at defensive tackle the way that they are supposed to this offseason, the way that they could this offseason. Now, I think you could bump everything back. I really do. I think you could go DK with the first and a third round pick, a defensive tackle in the second round, a defensive or a running back in the fourth round, and then you go from there. Your build around draft isn't as deep as you'd like it to be, but you have a wide receiver and you have George Pickens still, and you have Calvin Austin. And to be honest, I'd go out and maybe sign Darius Slay for $15 million because that's a cheap wide receiver core. If DK Metcalf's $30 million a year for the next 3 years, Darius Slayton's $15 million for the next 2 years, I mean, that seems pretty okay to me. That seems like a situation where you're spending $45 million on your wide receiver, and Cincinnati's out here trying to spend 65, 70. And that's super cheap for two guys that you could count on and be reliable. At that point, maybe you could trade George Pickens and fix the whole thing. I'm just saying, I think the possibilities are open with a DK trade, and they're open enough that I'm very comfortable with it. I understand that sacrifice comes with it, but for a first and a third, I'm willing to make that sacrifice. I am. Now, if it's a first and more, that's a different conversation, but the Patriots are out. Sorry to shatter your dreams there, but the Patriots were the first team recorded out last night, and you were the first one I thought of. I said, oh, well, there's one. We're narrowing them down real fast here. I don't know who else is out there. Vegas was a team you mentioned yesterday as well. I'm sure that they're still on the board. But if this isn't a bidding war, or at least a crazy bidding war, I feel very good about a first and a third, and the possibilities that come with having DK Metcalf as your starting point, even before free agency. I'm okay with that. First and a third confirmed. Anything change for you?
No, because we talked about this yesterday. I would, like you mentioned, prefer to push at least the third round pick to next year, because I still want, I want a defensive tackle early in this draft. I think that class is good enough to where you can get somebody and not have to continue to band-aid that situation. I want one of these running backs. I've fallen in love with too many of these running backs, but I think a first and a third makes a lot of sense because this guy is levels above everybody else that's on the market. And speaking of the market, you got to take Christian Kirk off of the market because he's heading to the Houston Texans. So maybe the sense of urgency is going to kick in a little bit. Now, there is some other names that are still out there, but the fact is people are starting to grab wide receivers. Seats are starting to be filled, and the market is starting to shrink. So maybe the Steelers do, as you talked about yesterday, get that little sense of desperation. And if that's the case, yeah, a first and a third makes a heck of a lot of sense. But like I said, man, I want that third round pick to be pushed to next year because I want a running back, and I don't want to have to sit there in the second round and be in a situation where the top 2 or 3 are off the board, but it's still a little bit too early to take somebody else. It's a little bit too early to take maybe, Caleb Johnson in the second round. It's a little too early based on the board to take some of these other guys like an Ollie Gordon, who's probably more a fourth than anything else. But I think the Steelers need to go out and get a running back because they don't have any other really solutions at this point. Like the running back free agent class is not there. So if they do get rid of their first and their third this year, then you almost have to get a running back in the second round. And that leaves you with no defensive tackle youngster. And I think that's something that if you miss out on all the defensive tackles in this draft, that you're going to have to, it's a tough pill to swallow.
It definitely is. I agree with that. Would you be okay with signing a name like Darius Slayton, a low, like a $15 million name? Christian Kirk's off the board, so Steelers got to work fast here. And to be honest with you, Christian Kirk leaving means that the Pittsburgh Steelers need to sign Justin Fields tomorrow. There is no more. They can't wait anymore. This is their warning shot of like, all right, there they go, man. They're starting. It's here. Steelers made too much sense for Christian Kirk. Way too much sense for Christian Kirk. The fact that he goes to Houston, which could be wrong, could be a waiver claim. Is it a waiver claim or is it an actual signing? Because if it's an actual signing, the Steelers need to sign Justin Fields tomorrow.
It said it was a trade. The Jaguars sent Christian Kirk to the Texans, according to Tom Pelissero. For a 7th round pick in 2026.
And $18 million. So,
yeah,
I'm okay with that. I'm not upset about that at all. Okay, let's say Darius Slayton. for whatever, 15, 16 million, let's say 18 million bucks. And you trade for DK Metcalf, and then you trade George Pickens for a second. Does that scenario work for you? I know it's a lot of moving parts, but it's really only 2 moving parts. You trade and you trade. You were going to sign a guy anyways, and Darius Slayton's been on their radar, so it wouldn't surprise me if he was already a name that they're pretty comfortable giving a contract to.
If they get Darius Slayton, then I am open to that, because we talked about the George Pickens for DK Metcalf thing yesterday, and I said, not unless you have something else in your back pocket, because if that's your only move, then you're in the same exact position you were in last year. I understand DK Metcalf has done it over a longer period of time, but I see the ceiling of DK and the ceiling of George is the same in 2025.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
You would need that Darius Slayton piece, and if you could do that and be able to save some draft capital in the meantime, I'd be more open to it.
Steelers trade for DK Metcalf. They trade George Pickens. They have 2 second-round picks, and they land Isaiah Bond with one of them, plus a running back or a defensive tackle.
I'm not big on Isaiah Bond, so like I'd rather get Slayton.
They land somebody in that realm. Trey Harris. Trey Harris would be another name.
Trey Harris.
Consider there.
Yeah, I mean, again, at the same time, here's my issue with all of this. You already have young guys that you don't know what they are. Like, if you are trading away George Pickens in favor of bringing in DK Metcalf, I want somebody that is tangible, that I know what he is. And yes, you can sit there and project, well, Isaiah Bond was so fast at the combine. What is he at the NFL level? We don't know. Roman Wilson was phenomenal going into the draft. And guess what? We got 5 plays out of him. One really good run blocking play, but we got 5 plays out of the guy. So if you're going into next year, we already know they botched last year with the wide receiver room the entire season. If you're going into next year and you're going to say, oh, we're just going to switch George Pickens for DK and we're going to bring another rookie into the fold, you're in the same position, if not a little bit worse. Now, it could work out better because that rookie and Roman could both be good. But again, I want something tangible if I'm giving away George Pickens in any way, shape, or form.
Okay, so if you aren't giving away George Pickens, are you still comfortable with a rookie?
Bringing in a rookie alongside George? No, I want Darius Slayton. I want a veteran.
I was just asking. I'm just asking.
I want to add a veteran here. Now, the only way that I'd be okay with that being a rookie specifically is if it's in the first round and if it's Emeka Egbuka. But I do think the Steelers have bigger needs. That's why I want a veteran.
Okay. All right. I agree. I like it. I like a veteran. I think I can make an argument for a rookie more because of Calvin Austin, I think, than anybody else, because at least then you're giving yourself a fighting chance with Roman, a rookie, Calvin, and DK. Even if it was George, like Calvin gives you a fighting. You didn't end up with Van Jefferson or Allen Robinson and DK Metcalf. Like, that's not your starting wide receivers. At least you have a fighter's chance here. But I think I think all of those things are possible. I think from all the reports that we've had all offseason, everything there is possible. DK interest is possible. George interest for a trade has been there all offseason. We've talked about it. It doesn't make sense unless the Steelers could replace him. Here it is. Here's the replacement, possibly. And, I mean, Darius Slayton was a name too. We literally talked about him 2 days ago on this podcast on how the Steelers have interest in Darius Slayton. So, all possibilities. I'm not going to say they aren't going to happen. Likelihood is small, The fact that they didn't trade Christian Kirk for a 7th-round pick. And I told you when we got off the podcast, I said, oh, they're waiting until tomorrow. Well, there it is. Why are we waiting? Because he was going to the Texans for a 7th-round pick. And what's his name? 32-year-old GM down in Jacksonville who looks like he's 15 is down there making moves with, I don't even know who the GM of the Texans is. But
still Nick Caserio or no?
I don't know. That's also an in-division trade now that I think about it.
It is Nick Caserio in Houston. Wow.
Shout out Nick Caserio, because to be honest, he just screwed the Jaguars. And that 32-year-old GM just had terrible trade. I would have just released him instead of trading him to the Houston Texans. I would have been like, chances are you're going to go somewhere that isn't Houston. So we could do that. We don't need to take on a 7th-round pick for your starting wide receiver. Shocking. All right. Let's finish off our agenda here with the conversation that everybody's talking about. The conversation everybody's got their eyes on. The one we're all waiting for. The one we're all waiting for a text to get. I know at some point I'm going to get the text that says Justin Fields, XX. Those X's are years and dollars. And when it comes, Steelers' entire world changes real fast. In the meantime, we wait. It's Justin Fields' watch, and we're getting closer to a deal by the day. I will say the biggest update is, well, the Steelers are looking at rookie quarterbacks, and they brought in a guy who, look, I had issues with the other day because I said he wouldn't tell me if he met with the Steelers at the NFL Combine. I like that. Let everybody know. But the Steelers have some interest in him. Apparently, if they're using a top 30 visit on him, they're bringing in Louisville's Tyler Shuck, who is not spelled like Shuck at all. It is spelled like Shaw. Everybody talks about him as though his name is Tyler Shaw or Show or whatever it is. It's Shuck. It's Tyler Shuck. Guy who played at Oregon, played at his second team was Texas A&M. Thank you. Finishes at Louisville, dealt with some injuries. Means absolutely nothing to the starting job for the Steelers, but is a development in their situation and how they're looking at things. They want a young guy. They're making it very clear that they want a draft pick to be a quarterback this year. They're not going to miss on one. Now, is that going to come in the 5th round with a guy like Tyler Shuck? Maybe. Is it going to come earlier with a name like Will Howard or Quinn Ewers or Jalen Milroe? Maybe, but it's clear as day that the Pittsburgh Steelers want somebody that they can see what he becomes in 2 years. On the other side of this, Justin Fields and his expectations, according to reports that emerged today out of, I apologize, Yahoo Sports. Don't know the name, but Yahoo Sports. That's on me. That the Steelers want a shorter term deal for Justin Fields. I could have told you that one, but shorter term probably doesn't mean a 1-year deal. Art Rooney's made that very clear. Omar Khan's made that very clear. They want something that they can have as tangible. This is 2+ years. We have some sort of future within this deal. I get it that if you aren't around the Pittsburgh Steelers every day, that short is 2 years and you're going, oh, that's a shorter term deal. That's a pretty decent deal for what the Steelers have been doing at quarterback the past couple of years. I think it's a 2-year deal for Justin Fields. That's what I'm looking at. 2 years. I would imagine the tie-up is that Justin wants more money. That's what we're waiting for. In the meantime, the Steelers are bringing in quarterbacks, and they are not afraid to hide them because on day one, they brought in a guy that I think is rising up draft boards very quickly. Very quickly. Tyler Shuck, outside of his name being spelt wrong. Your thoughts? And Justin Fields, 2-year deal. That's a reasonable deal for Justin Fields. That's what he should be looking for. That's what the Steelers should be looking for. If it's longer than that, I think there are questions to Justin's side of it. If it's shorter than that, there's questions to the Steelers side of it. 2 years gives everybody what they need: money and time, and the opportunity to figure everything out before the end of 2026, which that's the thing is, if Justin plays really, really well, okay, in the first year, in 2025, you break your rule of we don't negotiate in season and you sign this guy to a contract extension in week 11. You know, that's what you do. Because if you wait until week 17 and Justin looks phenomenal, you've just spent $15 million more a year on a quarterback. And that is not something that you should be able to do. I'm saying a 2-year deal is pretty good. Tyler Shuck interests me. I don't think he's a starting quarterback in the NFL in year 1. I doubt it's in year 2, but it is a name that the Steelers are looking to bring in. They have made it very clear they want a quarterback. That is not Justin Fields. That is younger than Justin Fields, and that is going to be their quarterback room. Justin Fields updates. Your thoughts?
Tyler Shuck, in my eyes, is not a future starter either. I mean, the guy is born in the same year as Justin Fields. They're both 25 years old right now. So you're not bringing him in to be a young buck that's going to learn and potentially grow. You're bringing him in to say, hey, this guy that was in college for 7 years, he's your backup. Like that's essentially what you're saying is you're bringing him in not to develop into anything. He's developed. He is what he is. He's 25 years old. Yeah, you might be able to raise the ceiling a little bit, but he's coming in here to be a rookie backup quarterback and start his career as a clipboard holder. Now, could he break out of that and shove it in my face? Yeah, sure. There's always that opportunity. Maybe he makes the jump from college football to the NFL and he's a long-awaited guy that is better in the NFL than he was in college. Maybe. Who knows? But to me, Tyler Shuck is somebody that they would bring in simply to say, well, we didn't want to bring in Jacoby Brissett as a backup, so we brought in Tyler Shuck. Now, Shuck is a big man, 6'5". He is Big Ben sized, and he has a big arm.
Let me be honest.
Okay? He's 6'5", but he's not as heavy. It's not.
I was going to say, I saw him in person. He ain't Big Ben.
No.
Big Ben walks in the room. You go, that's a big boy. It's a big guy right there.
Height-wise. Yeah, and he's 225, so it's not like he's a thin character either. He's a large human being with a large arm. You bring him in, he's a backup quarterback. It's a late round pick. Sure. You do that instead of, like we mentioned earlier in the week, instead of bringing in the veteran, you want to maybe go with some young guys and see what Tom Arth can do as that quarterback coach. See if he can get something out of this kid out of Louisville that you haven't seen in his 7 years in college. So it feels like the Steelers are saying, hey, if we don't get the exact backup we want, we're not just going to peruse the market and say, yeah, that guy will work. They're going to bring in a young guy and say, let's see what we can do to work with this kid to see if we can get anything extra out of him. And if he gets into a game, there's a lack of tape on him, and we think that maybe, just maybe, we can get it to where the fall off isn't as severe as going from a Justin Fields to a Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah, look at I think the Steelers' top option right now is a rookie backup. I think that's what they want to happen, because I think they realize what everybody else realizes, and that's that this rookie class doesn't have a starter in the third round. It's not, they're not going to go get that guy. But this rookie class we've talked about this many times. This rookie class has guys in the third and fourth and fifth round that match there's some development left, and you could draft this guy with some upside. You could draft this guy to be a backup. You could draft this guy to be reliable. Like, that's what you're getting. You're not looking for a franchise quarterback, so there's no pressure. The pressure is, can you develop them? And that's what these middle-class guys in the NFL draft bring. And the Steelers, I think, see that. They want, if I had to guess, the Steelers' top option for a backup quarterback right now is a rookie. I'm not saying it's Tyler Shuck, but it's just a rookie in general, and then Skylar Thompson. And that could change. Daniel Jones becomes available and makes himself known to the Steelers. That's a backup you're not going to ignore. Like, I get it, it's Daniel Jones, but he was the 5th pick in the draft. So teams are going to look at that and say, he was the 5th pick in the draft. He's 27 years old. You have to try it. You can't just ignore this guy. Now, if this was his 3rd team removed, you move on. But this is his 2nd team removed. He was at the Giants, who stink. He was at the Giants long enough to earn a long-term deal worth quite a bit of money over Saquon Barkley. I get it, but he was there long enough to prove that. You take a flyer. As a backup quarterback, you take a flyer and you hope that maybe something great happens, just like you did with Dwayne Haskins back in the day, just like you continued to do with guys like Mitch Trubisky, and then giving Mason Rudolph a shot, and then putting Kenny Pickett out there as the 20th pick in the NFL draft. These are all guys that you looked at and said, you got to take a shot on them. You just got to take a shot on it. I could see that developing, but right now, if I had to guess, it's Justin Fields and a rookie. And Tyler Shuck is climbing up the board. He is. He's got to be. He's was the talk of the town in Indy as the quote unquote most interesting quarterback that there was in the That's crazy for a dude who's 25, who's been injured half his career and played everywhere, and is the most interesting quarterback in the combine. He's going to go in the 4th round. Like, how did we get there? I mean, I don't hate it though. To be honest, I don't hate it. I like the idea of Justin Fields in a backup. When will Justin Fields sign? I don't know, but I think we're getting closer by the minute. I would be stunned if they go the whole weekend without a Justin Fields deal. To be honest, I'm stunned that we're here on Thursday night and there's no deal. At some point they got to ink them. Like, it's got to come down to dollars and cents right now. Otherwise, we would hear that. If these two sides were very far apart, Adam Schefter would have gotten word from Justin Fields' agent that they're far apart, that this is not a close deal. So the fact that we're not hearing anything has to indicate they're close.
Yeah, they'd send up the bat signal to other teams like, hey, prepare your offers because we're going to be there on Tuesday or Monday or whenever it is. Like, that, we haven't heard that yet, which means it feels like they're closer than you would imagine.
Yes, they're not. There are gaps, obviously, like, they're not super close. Maybe they are, but they're within one of these gaps before it hits not close. The not close bat signal, that's when things are rough. You haven't heard that yet. So you got to think that the two sides are somewhat close to a deal. I'm shocked that it hasn't happened. I expect it to happen this weekend, but we'll see what happens. For right now, Tyler Shough, name to learn how to spell and to, at the same time, learn how to say, because it's both of those things are wrong. They're both wrong. So hopefully, I hope everybody, how they called him Najee forever?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hope everybody does the same with Tyler Shough. And I'm the only one there who calls him the right name, as the guy who never pronounces names right. I hope that I get to wear that crown for one time.
I would hope if they draft a quarterback that somebody would at the very least look up one highlight where they say his name, which is Tyler Shough.
Do you know how many times Najee said my name is Najee, not Najee? That my name is Najee out loud to a group of us, and then was immediately called Najee by somebody in the media. So many times. I felt so bad for the guy. Tyler Shough, there's no chance they're not calling him Tyler Shough. So shout out Tyler Shough. All right. That's everything on our agenda today. With that said, we're going to finish off the show the same way we do every single day, and that is answering all of your questions. So toss them in the chat. If you got them, we'll get to all of them before we head out of here. Nick, I'm going to toss it to you. What do we got?
Let's go down to Steelers fan 8 to kick things off. Appreciate you, Steelers fan. Says, hey, Noah and Nick, what would you think about us getting DK and Tyler Lockett as well?
I think they should re-sign Russell Wilson and just run it back. See what happens. See what happens. First off, did you see DK and Russell Wilson at the gold party or whatever it was the other day?
I did not.
No. Yeah, it was some fashion show, high famous people thing, and they were there. They were posing all in their suits. Russ had his shades on. Obviously, it's inside. You know what I mean? Got to wear the shades. And you're just thinking maybe. I would like DK. I think DK and Tyler Lockett, to me, gives you the comfortability to move on from George Pickens. That's what it does to me. I don't think it moves the needle, but I'm not saying Tyler Lockett stinks. Tyler Lockett is far from a bad wide receiver. He is still one of the most reliable in the NFL. And if you could bring him in and DK, I mean, it's a complete change, but he'd probably work really well with Calvin Austin. And at the same time, again, opens the door for moves with George Pickens if that's what the Steelers are looking for. So I don't hate the idea. I don't think it's super likely, but I don't hate the idea.
Let's jump to Smooty Booty, who says, I feel like spending a first and a third means we're trying to win now. And I disagree with that approach. Leave DK and just try free agency.
The Steelers, I will tell you, are trying to win right now. My thing with DK is this. If you trade a first and a third right now, I get it that it comes with negative side effects. I truly, truly do. But you are giving Justin Fields the best opportunity to try and see if it succeeds. I get it. There are a lot of people out there that think Justin Fields stinks. I'm not going to say if I think Justin Fields stinks or is great. I don't watch the film like that. I can't sit there. I could tell you if a guy looks good. I could tell you, that I go back and rewatch every Steelers game the Monday night after it happens, and I could probably pinpoint if this was somebody's mistake or this person's mistake or whatever. What I can't do is say this quarterback's going to be really bad in the NFL. This quarterback's going to be really good in the NFL. I don't know quarterbacks like that. I don't know the fundamentals of playing quarterback like that. What I do know is that Justin Fields is 25 years old, that he was once viewed as one of the most potential guys in the NFL, that his last year in Chicago, people were pounding the drum for this guy to stay so that they could figure it out and give him an offensive line and an opportunity to win. If the Steelers are going to do that, if this is the lottery ticket that you're going after, give him everything you could get him. And DK is the best option there. That's my argument for it. I hear the argument against it. I think it makes a ton of sense. My argument for it is if you're going all in on Justin Fields, if Justin Fields is your shot, go all in on him and see if it works out. Because if it does, awesome. That you just hit the lottery. If it doesn't, okay, great. Start over. But what's the difference? You have DK Metcalf and no quarterback. You have a great defensive line, but no quarterback. Either way, you're not winning the Super Bowl,
Let's go to Real-ish, who says, I think you have to trade down in the first round if you're the Steelers. I think the Steelers could easily get a third and a fifth and get Hairston with DT being super deep with running back.
Oh, Maxwell Hairston. I like Maxwell Hairston, to be honest, a lot. Lengthy and super fast. Kentucky corner. And I've been a fan of him. I think he's good. I think he's a sneaky pick there at 21-ish, where like him, Ben Morrison, Chevelle out of ECU. I can never remember how to pronounce that guy's first name. All of those guys right there. Oh, who's the dude out of Texas? The guy out of Texas as well. All of those guys right there at the end of the first round. I think they have so much upside. Like they're quality picks at 21. I could also see them trading back. I don't think corner is high on their list, though. I don't think that they're looking for corner. I hear what you're saying, but in the Steelers' heads, I don't think corner's high enough on their list to feel good about trading down. If they stay there at 21, they're going to take the best player of value, and that's either going to be a defensive tackle or a wide receiver.
Let's go to Real-ish again, who says, I suggest everybody keep an eye on Chris Sims's quarterback rankings. The man knows how to evaluate QBs. Would you support drafting Shedeur if he fell?
Any day of the week. Any day of the week. I mean,
doing heavy lifting there.
Yeah, there's no, you don't pass at 21. You would never pass on Shedeur. But all the drafts that, like, all the people I spoke to in Indy that like laughed off the idea of Shedeur Sanders falling out of the top 10 it was plenty. There was a lot of them. And I just think there are probably 15 teams that would look at it and go, you don't pass on Shedeur at 11. You don't pass on Shedeur at 15. You don't pass on Shedeur at, 18 or whatever. I don't know what the draft order is, but whatever it is, like there will be so many teams that say, you don't pass on that guy. He's there. And that's what the Steelers train of thought should be. I don't think he'd have any shot of falling to 21. But if he did, you sign Justin Fields, doesn't matter. You're drafting Shedeur Sanders. Does not matter. You draft Shedeur Sanders.
Let's jump to Deluxe Skittles, who says GP, EE, Slayton, and Calvin Austin III at the slot. Who says no? Can Justin Fields actually get a chance to prosper with that core of wide receivers? Also, Justin Fields is still posting Steelers posts. He wants to be a Steeler.
That's what I'm saying. They got to be close. There's no pissed off quarterback. There's no pissed off athlete right now looking for a deal. There's no deleted Instagram posts. I don't know what his bio says or what it used to say, but right now it's not black with just nothing there, or just like quarterback. It's the new one, just quarterback. It feels like Justin wants to be a Steeler. Like the Steelers want him to be a Steeler. It's just finishing money. And the fact that there are no negative reports works really well in the Steelers' favor. I like this. I like this a lot. This wide receiver core would be awesome because you toss Roman Wilson in there, you're feeling pretty good, and that gives Justin Fields a chance to prosper. I feel like that's my thing is you have the offensive line. You can't add to the offensive line. You can't. You might be able to replace Mason McCormick, but you have to do it in an intelligent way. And I just think everywhere else you have your tight ends. You're going to get Jaylen Warren back. You're going to draft a running back. Get him wide receivers. Like, get him the opportunity to show out this season. If it doesn't work, you can't blame yourself for trying, because if it was the other way around and it was Van Jefferson getting the ball thrown to him by Justin Fields, everybody be saying he's got nobody to throw the ball to. The Steelers didn't even give him a real shot. Give him a real shot. See what happens. I'm full in support of give Justin Fields a shot. I think this wide receiver core could do it.
Let's jump to Maddie, who says, hey guys, what do the Steelers need to do to lock Fields in? The closer we get to Monday, the less faith that I have that he stays. Also, Jackson Dart as a backup, that would be dope.
I think Jackson Dart's going to go in the first round, so I don't think the Steelers are going to get their hands on him. I do like Jackson Dart. I've been a fan of Jackson Dart, but in the third round, maybe second round, I guess, earliest, he's going to go in the first. When it comes to locking up Justin Fields, again, I think they're close. I think it just comes down to dollars and cents right now. What is the guaranteed money? What are they looking for? What are other teams offering? Like, how close are they? They're going to take this. That's the other part of this, okay? They both understand that the team's best shot is to get a deal done by Monday. But they understand that the team's best shot is to get a deal done by Monday, which means that they don't have to sit here and say, well, it's Monday or it's Thursday afternoon. We have to get a deal done right this second. They could try to nickel and dime each other right up until Sunday night and then say, or Monday morning. You could do it at Monday morning at 11:59. And that means at noon, all the wide receivers that you call, you're allowed to say, we have our quarterback. His name is Justin Fields. They can nickel and dime each other right up until then. That's what I expect to happen. I don't think there are tensions right now. I think it's just a spot of figuring out the final number. And either side is not in a typical rush, which they should be, to go get it done.
Let's go to the next question here. It is, would it matter what receiver we get if the offensive concept is the same? No throwing across the middle.
I just don't know where those directions come from. That's the question with this one. Was it Russell Wilson? Was it Mike Tomlin? Did Russell, do you want to add more conspiracy theory to this? Did Russell Wilson's people leak the Mike Tomlin doesn't throw across the middle of the field thing? And that's where it all came from. Who knows? We have no idea. If it's Mike Tomlin, nothing changes and every quarterback's done forever. The Pittsburgh Steelers are a quarterback killer for the rest of time. That's what it means if it's Mike Tomlin. And I hate to be blunt, but that's what it means. If it's Russell Wilson, makes a ton of sense. The guy couldn't see over his offensive line. He's never been good at throwing across the middle of the field. Justin Fields is fine throwing across the middle of the field. And when you go to next year or last year and say, well, he didn't do it last year, that's because, to be honest, the Steelers just said, how safe can we play this guy to make sure that we win games until Russ gets back? And that obviously shut down the middle of the field. So I hope things are different if Justin Fields is the full-time starter and the Steelers have a quarterback that they actually have some faith in.
Let's go to Soapy Nugget, who says, hey, Nick and Noah, if you had to keep one, who would you keep? Minka or Deshaun Elliott? Personally, I would keep Elliott after what he did this past season.
I would keep Elliott too. I would definitely keep Deshaun Elliott. I agree with you. I think you could get something for Minka Fitzpatrick. I don't know what you'd get for Deshaun Elliott, but it wouldn't be as high as Minka. It doesn't come with the name, doesn't come with the accolades. Deshaun's fun, man. He's fun to watch. I think he's just getting started in Pittsburgh. I honestly, I'm stunned. Stunned that I did not realize this guy was a baller when he was in Baltimore. Glad that he's a baller in Pittsburgh. I would go Deshaun Elliott. I think that I just fits the Steelers defense right now and does more for them than Minka does, which is crazy to say, but I also think that value wise, Minka could go for way more than literally anybody except for TJ Watt on that defense.
Let's go to the Irresistible Fan, who says, also, have you guys ever thought about doing a live show during the NFL draft? I think it would be awesome to get your live intake and reaction to each of the picks.
Yeah, so we do little videos. Nick does little videos, reaction videos to each selection, but I'm actually at the Steelers facility during the NFL draft. So as a player gets drafted, we put out the story, and then the local media at the facility, they jump on a conference call real fast with that draft pick, and we're able to interview him and ask him questions. And then we speak to coaches or Tomlin or Omar or whoever during the draft picks as well. So would love to do all of that, to be honest with you. And maybe it could be Nick and somebody else from Steelers on SI who could jump into a good live stream and react to some stuff. We could think of that kind of stuff, but unfortunately you won't see my pretty face during the NFL draft. Not much, at least during the day. I mean, we go live every day. So that's you'll get my reactions then.
Let's go to Grayson, who says, hey, Nick and Noah, if George Pickens can go a whole season without causing any issues, do you see the Steelers keeping him? And if so, how much do you see the Steelers paying him?
I could see the Steelers keeping him. That's a lot of issues to clean up, though. Which is possible, super possible, could happen. Chad Johnson says it's gonna. Great. I hope it does. I'm always pro player. I'm rooting for George Pickens, man. I am. That guy's hella talented. He's got to not show up late for work. He's got to not show up late for games. He's got to not cause issues on the field. He's got to put 100% effort in on the field. He's got to not go on social media. That would be a big one. If he could do all that, the Steelers would certainly consider signing him to a deal. What they would pay him, I'd say, is $25 million a year, somewhere in that. Next year, the salary cap probably go so high that like 30 would be cheap. So 25 to 30 is my thought there. But man, it would be tough because you might have to franchise tag him, to be honest, because chances are he hits free agency, he's going for way more than that.
Let's jump to Danny, who says Hendrickson was granted permission to seek a trade. What's the cost, and is it worth the Steelers pursuing?
Yeah, very interesting, huh? Very interesting that Trey Hendrickson has requested a trade. I've been pushing the Trey Hendrickson thing and the possibility of a trade for a couple months now, and maybe that's because there's been rumbles surrounding the Cincinnati Bengals and Hendrickson, that this was going to come to this point at some point this offseason. From what I know, Cincinnati is very much so prioritizing their wide receivers over him. He wants a deal. It's probably somewhere around $35 million. That's where it gets way too complicated. I think it'd be awesome if you could trade him with a contract that's $25 million a year. I think that would be great. But the fact that he is openly looking for 30 plus is not good. The fact that Max Crosby got paid already is not good. If this was a week ago, 48 hours ago, Trey Hendrickson requests a trade. The Steelers make a trade. They pull it off. $27 million a year. TJ gets 35. You trade Alex Highsmith. Like, there's so many moving parts here, but it's possible if you play the game right. Right now, it's two guys for $35 million cannot happen. Like, that is just such a bad idea. So I don't think it's possible. I don't think the Steelers will consider it. I do think at some point the Steelers would have considered it. I think that price tag just went up too high with Max Crosby.
Let's go to Carl, who says, just because I want to see Noah struggle a little bit. Gosh. Start, sit, cut. Football Sundays, golfing, or pizza and wings.
This one's easy. One's easy. Yeah, easy. Football Sundays are starting, okay? Sundays are starting. You're not anybody who's watching this who's saying anything else different. I mean, I don't know what you're doing on Sundays, but it's not as good as football. The Sundays now stink. You're telling me you wake up on a Sunday morning feeling good? No, you wake up on a Sunday morning feeling a little lost.
I'll feel much better in about a month when I can go golfing.
Yeah, you'll feel great. But there's also like those September Sunday mornings where, and this is coming from a guy who doesn't get to do this. Okay. This is coming from a guy whose Sunday mornings are at 6 a.m. because I got to work. And then I'm dressed and ready to go while my wife is getting out of bed. You know what I mean? And she gets to sit there and go, put the Steelers game on. And I'm like, yep. All right. See you later. I'm out of here. And then I come home at 9:00 at night. So my Sundays are different. I'm still picking football Sundays. There's nothing better than football Sundays. Golfing is I'm sitting golfing. You know, golfing is life. The older you get as an adult, the more you realize life means way less without golfing. You know, I tell everybody all the time that I will not live in Pittsburgh my whole life because at some point I will have to golf in February. You know, like that will have to occupy my time or I'm not going to make it. And, you know, you got to be somewhere warm for that. The DMV, Pittsburgh, these are not places where you golf in February. You just can't do it. And then pizza and wings, man, it hurts, but I could get over them. You know, that'd be a breakup that I'd be okay with. Now, don't get me wrong, come from the pizza capital of the world. That's a tough one to say, but I'm still going to cut them. So I'm going pizza Sundays, golfing, or football Sundays, golfing, pizza and wings.
All right. I would tend to agree, and especially because essentially that's what you do in life. Yeah. You start football Sundays in the fall and you bench golfing. You start golfing in the summer and you bench football Sundays. Pizza and wings would be tough, like you mentioned, but there's still hoagies. There's still buffalo chicken dip. There's still other ways to kind of scratch that itch in the football season.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be fun, but you could make it happen. You're not. What are you eating pizza and wings with if you're not watching football? You know what I mean? Nothing. You're just sitting there eating pizza and wings, feeling a little lost, feeling a little lost.
Let's go to Matt, who says, what player will replace the everyday question in regards to a Cole Holcomb update?
Shout out, Matt. It's got to be Roman Wilson, right? That's the one. What's the Roman Wilson update? We'll see. We'll find out. Maybe there's a new one coming. I hope not. Never hope for injuries, but I would say right now, probably, if I had to guess, Roman Wilson. It's Roman Wilson.
Let's go to Kobe, who says, any chance of a reunion with Mike Hilton or Javon Hargrave?
I don't think Mike Hilton. I think Nate Hobbs is the name. He's like 6 years younger, going to be a little bit cheaper. Feels like that makes too much sense to me. Plus, like I reported yesterday, Gerald Alexander and the Steelers are into Nate Hobbs. They want to bring him in. They feel the cost is going to be efficient. I would guess Nate Hobbs is the guy at slot. And then Javon Hargraves is a maybe. Is definitely a maybe. I don't know what his price tag is going to be. I don't even know what his market value is, but I would guess it's higher than what he's actually going to go for. He's healthy, but he dealt with the tricep last year. He's 32 years old. I would say maybe, depending on the price, that price tag's got to be, probably somewhere around like less than $10 million a year. I would say in that neighborhood for a guy like Javon Hargraves.
Let's go to D Jones, who says, hope you guys are well. Also, first full season with the AST family. Shout out.
Shout out.
If you see this, how does a contract tender work? Is it similar to a qualifying offer in the NBA?
Oh, I don't know the NBA enough to say it's the same as a qualifying offer. But in the NBA, first off, shout out, appreciate you. Welcome happy to have you, to be honest with you. I'm very grateful for you. When it comes to a tender, essentially what it is, there are different tiers. When it comes to Jaylen Warren, it'll be an original tender, which is a second round pick, I believe, maybe a third round pick. If a team chooses to match his contract. So tenders are given specific numbers. It's like a 5th-year option or a franchise tag, where if you tender him, you have to pay him this much money. For Jaylen Warren, that number is 3-point-some million. If a team matches it, the Steelers have the opportunity to beat that match or to let him walk, but then they get a compository pick. Did I say that right? In return for Jaylen Warren. What?
Yeah. Compensatory, but you were close.
I'm really bad at words. But that's essentially how it works. And it gets there are different rounds and different draft picks that you can tender a guy for, but it costs more money every time you get higher.
Let's go to S. Dresden, who says, trade up for Jackson Dart. He won't make it past the Colts or the Seahawks, and Justin is gone because he doesn't trust Tomlin.
I hate to burst your bubble, but I would guess neither of these things happen. I would guess Justin is here to stay. He's going to sign a deal with the Steelers in the coming days. Again, haven't heard anything different. And the fact that I haven't heard anything at all recently outside of, just like normal talks, updates, those things, nothing big that I can report, is probably a good indication that they're in a good spot. And then when it comes to Jackson Dart, I'm not trading up for Jackson Dart. I get it. I like Jackson Dart as a second, third round pick. I don't like him as a first round pick. I wouldn't take him in the first round, even if he made it to 21. I just don't think he fits the upside in the right now of what any team looking for a quarterback should be going after.
Let's go to Bread Guys Golf, who says, could Peyton Wilson go out to the edge? Does he have the skill set to play that position? I know he's very fast. And should Watt be traded to get picks and the money back if you sign Metcalf?
Definitely no to TJ Watt. He's getting paid. He's getting paid. Omar Khan made that very clear that he is a legacy guy. He's going to retire in Pittsburgh. This is just a matter of how much money. And that's the thing, is like Max Crosby got paid. TJ Watt's going to get paid. Micah's going to get paid. Myles Garrett's going to get paid. Trey Hendrickson's going to get paid. But they're all going to be like right there. Like it's not going to be, whatever Max Crosby's deal is, the next guy gets $5 million more. The next guy gets it's going to be nickels and dimes, 500,000, 400,000, 200, something in that ballpark. The guarantee is going to be fluctuated enough to make it work. So TJ is going to get paid relatively soon. Wouldn't be surprised if it's by Wednesday. And then with Peyton Wilson, he's not big enough to play on the outside, and he's so fast that you want his speed to be an inside linebacker. That's what you want him to do. He's really good in coverage. I think if he could I don't want to say get bigger because you're going to slow down, but just be able to utilize his physicality in an NFL manner, which I think is really possible. Then he works like he's a good inside linebacker. He wouldn't be an edge guy. He's not built like an edge guy. He'd have to put on a ton of weight. He works as an off-ball linebacker. And if you could have a core of the four that they are looking at right now, I mean, I think he fits perfectly.
Let's go to JT, who says, why is J.K. Dobbins not being considered? He's younger than Najee Harris.
Yeah, I would guess J.K. Dobbins is being considered, but it's difficult because Jaylen Warren is so cheap, and the rookie running back class is not going to be ignored. The Steelers are going to get a rookie running back. So it's just a matter of like, what are you bringing J.K. Dobbins in for? He's younger. I think that makes sense if you were re-signing Najee, but I don't expect them to re-sign Najee. I think that was all just kind of save face. You know, if Jaylen doesn't work out for whatever reason, if Najee ends up being cheap, then you could bring him back. But I don't look at the Najee Harris consideration as real right now. I think it's a backup plan and a very clear one. Jaylen Warren's cheap. You're obviously going to get a rookie. I just don't know if you have the room for J.K. Dobbins in a role that he's going to accept if he were to sign with the Steelers.
Let's finish it off with David, who says, with Max Crosby getting that huge contract, when could we see TJ? But also, how much do you think he ends up getting?
Can you look up the exact amount Max Crosby got paid and what it is per year? Because I don't know those numbers. When it comes to TJ Watt, I would guess it's by Wednesday. I know they are negotiating. They are in negotiation periods right now. How close they are, I don't know, but I do know that they're working on a deal. The Steelers are going to ink him to a deal. It makes too much sense. You're not going to get rid of TJ Watt. He's a legacy guy. JJ Watt said it today that he's not going to take a hometown discount. That was the year before if the Steelers signed him then. But I still think it's right in that ballpark without getting too high, and it's by Wednesday. What's Crosby's contract?
Yeah, Max Crosby got a 3-year contract, total of $106.5 million. The average annual value is $35.5 million.
That's right around where I expect TJ. $35 million a year is what I anticipate him getting, with a boatload of guaranteed money. He's worth every single penny, and that's what you go out and get. I would get 35 is where I've sat pretty much the whole time. I don't think it's going to get much crazier than that. Like I said, I think they're all going to be like 100, 200, maybe $500,000 off from each other. But it'll all fluctuate because it'll be, it's all different. Like it'll be like the TJ Watt signs record-breaking deal, but he gets less guaranteed money than Max Crosby, or TJ Watt signs a lesser deal than Max Crosby, but he gets more guaranteed. It's always going to fluctuate like that, but they'll all pretty much be the same. So I would guess $35 million right in that ballpark.
We got one more that came in under the wire. JTC says, keep Justin to start, bring in Jacoby Brissett as a backup, and draft Quinn Ewers for a third string for this year. At least Brissett is a decent backup already.
Yeah, I don't mind Jacoby Brissett. I don't think he matches what the Steelers are looking for behind Justin Fields, because they want guys to be the same. But to be honest, I don't know if I know enough about Tyler Shuck, whatever his last name is, to know if he fits that mold either. And they're apparently interested in him. Quinn Ewers, in my head, doesn't have the athleticism as Justin Fields, but is able to move around. And that's important for what they're looking for. I wouldn't be upset with this, to be honest. This is a decent 1, 2, 3 in the NFL, especially if Justin works out. And if Quinn Ewers can develop into a number 2, I think that would be pretty spot on for what the Steelers are hoping happens this offseason. And then where you get Ewers, I would guess, is the third round, which, isn't the best place for a third round rookie or third round quarterback, but or third string quarterback. That's what I meant to say. But I wouldn't be opposed to it. And I think drafting a guy who could be your long-term backup is a good move for the Steelers.
That's a wrap for today then.
Awesome. With that said, guys, we are heading out of here. Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcasts. And as always, find all of our work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. We will be back tomorrow morning for our Friday morning episode. Heading into the weekend, I'm sure there's going to be complete chaos. And don't worry, Justin Fields signs. We have emergency press conferences on All Steelers Talk. Ready to rock. We're ready to go. So with that said, enjoy another beautiful day in the Berg. We'll be back tomorrow. Peace.